kind of the reason I wanted to do this was just to introduce people to kind of what it is I do, and obviously highlight different people in my office and kind of
Mm.
some of the things that you do. And
Sure.
so maybe you could kind of start us out and tell us a little bit about maybe what you do. I know you have a podcast. Maybe you can talk a
Hmm.
little bit about that. And I know that we both homeschool. Well, I say we, but really my wife does
Yeah,
all the heavy lifting with this,
I
but
understand.
we
Hmm.
homeschool.
Yeah,
So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
sure, sure. So, I am a homeschool mom of two. I have a 13-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. 9-year-old going on 16 some days, but it's fine. And I have a podcast called Imperfectly Pollyanna where I talk about real life, all the imperfections, hot mess express, fess up on stories that maybe I'll regret later, but we always find the good, whether it's through homeschool or faith, just life in general. And that was really like my desire whenever I started that was just to kind of encourage other families, whether they were trying to homeschool or just really just were struggling, especially in the height of 2020, the year that shall love to be forgotten.
Sure.
Um, so I've been enjoying that. And we do homeschool. We've been homeschooling since the beginning, since my son was in kindergarten. And there's been good and bad days, but that's life. And in the end, I don't regret the decisions that we made. So, and I am with you that we decided to homeschool, but I do the actual lesson stuff and,
Yeah.
the trenches stuff, but it's all right because it is a family decision. Um, so I do that. I work full time while homeschooling. So I work 24-hour shifts as a paramedic. I've been in EMS. I just celebrated 20 years this past summer.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and somehow I still enjoy it most of the time.
You could
Again,
probably write a
it
whole book just on that, I'm sure. That,
I could.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's can be a challenge because I know
Hmm.
we get asked a lot of times, why do you homeschool? Like, aren't your kids weird? And these funny questions now. And I'm like, y'all probably homeschooled for a year yourself. Y'all are
Uh-huh.
we were
Uh-huh.
doing it before it was cool, or
That's right. That's right. And
so
it's like, I mean, people are going to be weird no matter what.
yeah,
So, and I like to think of it that the only weird people that there are is that the only reason that somebody would think that my children were weird is because they were expecting them to fit in some kind of box that they had in their mind of what normal was.
right,
And who wants to fit into somebody else's box? So,
right.
let's be weird.
Yeah, yeah, we're all weird
Yeah.
anyway, so it's
That's
fine,
right. It's
you
okay.
know.
Yeah.
So a few things that kind of, it's kind of funny because we'd actually talked about doing this several times, and I mentioned to you that I pretty much like to buy equipment more than I actually like to, you know, do this kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
Yeah.
but so we finally made it happen. So
Yes.
I have a few questions for you that I kind of wanted to get by, and I thought you would be an amazing kind of first interview anyway, because
Okay.
the fact that you are in as an EMS, like you see all
Mhm.
kinds of medical issues with people all the time, and
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate because I've kind of found over the years of and I think I think it was 18 years. I don't know. These years fly by, when you're doing your work
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
raising kids and like things
Yeah.
happen, but um you see things where people maybe we're not really taught well to take good care of ourselves and like what that
Hmm.
means. Like, what does it mean to take care of yourself? And I think, a lot of times people look at their health and the definition of health, and it's like they think it's a lack of symptoms, and
Oh yeah.
unfortunately, that's not how health is, and
No.
I look at it almost like a leaky bucket. Like we're all going to do bad things. Like we're going to poke holes in the bottom of that bucket, whether
Hmm.
it's eat fast food or drink Coke or, whatever it might be, like
Right.
poking
Yeah.
holes in that bucket. Right. And it's like, you got to fill it back up with all the good stuff. So, you
Right.
know, what do you, working in the field, like, what makes you like, what started we with chiropractic care?
Oh man, because I had the leaky bucket. I had the leaky bucket. I had seen where I got into EMS in general to help people. Have a I have a sad story that I won't share the whole details, but I had a reason for why I came into EMS and I wanted to help people. And so I got into the habit of doing that, but I didn't do as great of a job as taking care of myself. And I could take care of others all day long, put others before myself all day long. And I knew some things at the beginning, but I just chose to ignore those right decisions because I was going for the quick and easy, and for years and years I worked night shift, and now I work 24s, so I basically work night shift again. But sometimes whenever you're in that situation, you just grab, like, if you don't get to eat, you just grab whatever's there.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were times, I don't do this anymore, but there were times that, 3 a.m., I'm having gas station hot dogs because I needed something in my stomach and I was going to go.
Right.
And so, the job itself is very, it wears you down physically, mentally, emotionally, and you just find different ways of coping. And I had an accident, I call it a diving accident whenever I was in college, whenever, I thought I was untouchable, I guess. Bless my heart.
Right.
But I had a diving accident, and I had lost all feeling from my neck down. And thankfully it obviously didn't last very long, but didn't get the best care at that time. And just went about my business, had years of pain right in between my shoulder blades. And so then whenever I got into EMS, by that time, I knew how to properly lift to not cause any additional pain to that area of my back. So I did it for years. And I had a doctor tell me at the beginning that, well, you're only going to be doing this for about 2 years, and then you better find another career because of your back injury. And I was
Wow.
like, well, watch me. And
Right.
so I did it. And, as things progressed, I went through 2 pregnancies. I went through several things of fertility treatments. So I had all those extra hormones going in my body on top of the stress and just changes in my body. And, and pregnancy changes your body. And I just kept on working. And so
100%. It
yeah,
does. Yeah.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
And so it was like one of those things of I just kept going because that's just what you did. And the little aches and pains were just, well, you just have to deal with it. I did finally, whenever I was pregnant with my daughter, I decided that I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And so I needed to figure something out. And so I started changing my diet. I started working out, trying to do all these things, and had a huge turnaround in my health overall. But I always still had the issue with my back.
Yeah.
And it just added to different things. And I had seen a chiropractor once before, and nothing against him whatsoever. He did a great job. It just wasn't convenient for the
Sure.
location and the time frame. It just wasn't convenient for me. And I didn't stick with it very long. I don't think I did it long enough. Like, I got the initial and that was great and didn't stay with it. And then a few years ago, my husband was like, look, I'm tired of hearing you complain about your back. Like, you got to do something. You deserve to do something. I'm getting you connected to Dr. Lobax because he was already going. And so he
Yeah.
was like, he's doing this special at the holidays. Just go have the consultation. And I was scared of having my neck popped. Like, I was just like terrified, the whole neck injury. I was like, no. And by that time, my son was coming and he was loving it. I was
Yeah.
shocked.
And
And
how
so
old
it's
was your
like,
son at that time?
well, let's see. I guess maybe around 11, I think,
I
because
hear so
he's
many times like
13.
people, they get scared like the kids are going to get hurt or something like
Yeah.
that. And, normally once kids get on the table, it's like they fight mom and dad to get to the table first when they come
Right.
in. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so it's funny that you mentioned
Yeah.
that because they, most
Uh-huh.
kids they love it, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
even told I even told my husband whenever he was bringing my son for the first time, I wasn't going. And of course, I hadn't come yet anyway, but I was like, I can't go, like I can't watch. It just makes me sick. And
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, please don't let him don't let him pop his neck. Like just don't do it. And he's like, okay. And then later on, he's like, well, he got all adjusted. And I was like, great. He was like, he popped his neck, just letting you know, he adjusted it. It was fine. He liked it. And I was like, oh, okay. So, I finally was like, well, I guess, I'll try this because if my child can go and be a grown person, then I'll do
Right.
it.
Right.
And so, and now it's such a habit that I just, I can now tell whenever I've not gone in a long time. I'm
Hmm.
like, I need to go get adjusted. Like I even know now at this point, I walk in, I know exactly where you're going to find it because I'm really sensitive now to where I know it's
Yeah.
coming.
So you bring
So,
up a few points in there, and one of them was, so I kind of have to go back to the EMS thing. Like,
mm,
people are so scared to have their neck adjusted. Like,
mhm.
how often do you show up at chiropractic offices? Like 2, 3 times a week, maybe, like pulling people out. And I'm just
Never.
kidding. I'm joking,
Yeah,
obviously.
never. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very low. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, like I kind of joke with my neighbor the other day because he's a surgeon, but I was showing him, like, I got my statement in the mail for my malpractice insurance, and he's like,
Mm.
"What's that? Your light bill?" Because it's so low that
Yeah.
we don't. I mean, you just don't hurt people. Like, it's so low. It's
Right.
so funny, but like this stigma is out there that's,
Hmm.
like, don't get your neck done. And so, anyway, I hear that
Yeah.
a lot. But the second thing
Yeah.
I heard you say that makes all the difference in the world is like when people come in regularly, it makes such a big difference
Hmm.
versus like treating it like a medical
Yeah.
condition. So it's like when you
Right.
come in more regularly, it makes the body function better and work better, and that's really the whole point
Hmm.
of it. So yeah, I love that you brought those 2 points up.
Yeah. Well, and I
um
also think I think about whenever I was going through all of my health stuff, it occurred to me like I didn't get toxic overnight. So I wasn't going to get better overnight.
mhm.
It was a whole process. So in regards to chiropractic care, to me, it's like, okay, logically, at that point, I knew like one time was not going to just fix all the things. And if I didn't feel a difference the first time, I needed to give it enough chances for my body to figure out, like, what are you doing to me to be able to adjust in a
Yeah,
positive way, to be able to tell the difference. So logically, it made sense to me.
no, that's perfect. That's so true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
um if you were to, I'm going to ask you a few questions about this, but
Mm-hmm.
if you were to describe, what it is I do when you come in, like, could you, like, if somebody said, like they overhear you at the grocery store talking about going to the chiropractor, like, what would you describe going to the chiropractor's like?
Oh man, like a tune-up.
Yeah, that's fair.
like
That's fair.
like a reset because I mean there have been times where I've even been on duty and I'm like, man, I wish like I need to just run over there really quick
Mhm.
because I just like have like a crick in my neck. And I mean it wasn't that way at the beginning because I would say like if I was describing it at the beginning, it was a way to get my body back into alignment because it had just been through so much over my entire lifetime between injuries and just wear and tear that I needed support for the entire body and getting that realigned. But I'm still going to be living my life. So I'm going to need those tune ups to be able to do that. So yeah, I see it
Yeah.
as a tune up now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. You've nailed it. I mean, this is chiropractic philosophy right here. We're just teaching it out right here tonight.
Yeah,
So
there we go. We're here.
let me see. Is there anything else that, if you were talking with somebody that was like on the fence about trying chiropractic or like coming into the office, like what would you tell them?
Oh man, like it's not gonna make it any worse. So, like whether you're just wanting to try it for a specific reason, like you just have some ache or pain. To me, if you've if you've experienced something like, for me now experiencing chiropractic care, if my automatic thought now, if I feel like my neck is like, if I wake up from sleeping on it wrong, or, like I feel weird, if I've pulled something at work or something, I'm like, I just need to get to the chiropractor instead of I need to go to the doctor and get some medications. That's where I feel now. But for
Yeah.
somebody that has been struggling with something and is unsure of whether or not to come to the chiropractor, I would want to tell them, like, why would you not try that? Because obviously nothing has worked at this point. And so, do you want to go through the rest of your life trying different medications that then need other medications that need other medications? And
Yeah.
you still aren't even better because now you're dealing with all the repercussions and your initial complaint is not fixed? Or just try it out, because it's either going to help or it's not going to do anything. It's not going to make the situation worse. But I would encourage them to try it more than once. I know that I feel comfortable, and I have felt comfortable in your office from the first time, despite me being nervous about the whole like popping of the neck. Like,
Yeah.
there's not been a time where I have felt uncomfortable or uneasy. Everything is just very warm and, friendly environment. I have no problem coming in there, and it's just always, I just feel relaxed to come in there. I don't ever
Good.
have any type of hesitation. So I would just encourage somebody, like, just try it. You literally have nothing to lose.
Yeah. Perfect. It's funny because a lot of times, we talk about managing the pain. A lot of people try to manage the pain
Mhm.
constantly, and it's, I always tell people, like, you're not deficient like in Tylenol.
Right.
That's not,
Yeah.
it's not, you don't get headaches because you're not taking your Tylenol every day, right? Like,
Right.
something is going on that's actually causing this problem. It's not, you just can't,
Mhm.
you can't swallow pills all the time and expect things to
Right.
get better, so
Right.
yeah, thank you. Well, I appreciate
Yeah.
you coming on tonight,
No
and
problem.
that's all I have for you, but I always love to get
Yeah.
like someone in the medical field's perspective on what it is,
Sure.
because there is such a different, I guess perspective anyway of, just this common
Hmm.
idea, where people think it's this, or they've heard this, or their uncle said this, or
Yeah.
they've always got a cousin's husband, sister that had a
That's right.
had a
Yeah.
problem or something, and I'm like,
That's right.
look,
Worst
it's,
case scenarios.
yeah, I mean, there's always something, right? But like,
Yeah.
so thank you very much for
Yeah.
coming on.
Thanks
And
for having me.
where can we check out your podcast?
Sure. So I am on all major platforms, Imperfectly Pollyanna, or you can go to my website. It's imperfectlypollyanna.com. You can actually listen to it directly on there.
Okay. So I knew very, very little about podcasts until maybe a couple years ago. Like, even how to, like, when you say like all the major platforms, like, I want to make
Ah,
that
yeah.
clear for people, because a lot of people
Sure.
like have no idea
They
what
don't
that even
know.
means. So
Yeah.
like, even if you like have an iPhone, there's like a podcast app. You can just
Yeah.
like, you can like find it on your phone, right? Like, you can just go to
Yep.
podcast and like look for it. So,
That's right.
but what are some other, I mean, how else would somebody
There's
get to it?
so you can do on an iPhone, it's the podcast app. You can go to Google. Google has their own Google podcast. Spotify now has it.
Okay.
Um, there is uh what's the what's the one that starts with a P? Uh um
Oh man, we're both gonna go brain numb on this one, right?
I
Let me pull
know.
this up. Let me see.
I can like
Podcast.
something with an A at the end, like a Pandora.
Oh,
Pandora.
Pandora. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. And then there's some other like smaller ones that
I
actually I wasn't
gotcha.
even aware of until
Yeah, I'm just
other
pulling
people were
some
like,
up.
"Oh, you
It's
have, yeah,
Libsyn and Buzzsprout
yes,
and
yeah,
just, yeah. Okay.
yeah." And you can
Podcast.com.
probably, most of the time you can even search, like, if you're not sure if you have a podcast like if you're not sure if you have access to a platform, you can just search online and just search for that specific podcast. So like for me, you could search Imperfectly Pollyanna podcast and it would pull that up, and then you could pick whichever app or online that you wanted to listen to it. You
Yeah.
could do that.
Well, if you guys are looking for maybe some support on homeschooling your kids and, it being okay and their kids
That's
not
right.
turning out as big weirdos. And,
That's
you know, I,
right.
I think that used to be a thing of the past, to be quite honest. I mean,
Hmm.
I think still people are a little uncomfortable with it at times when we tell them like we
Hmm.
homeschool our kids. They're like, don't, how are they going to be
Oh,
social? I'm like, have you met my kids? Like,
right,
there's
right.
no problem with social ability. Like
That's right.
oh my
That's right. They're
gosh,
like, we socialize to the point that like sometimes I'm like, I've had enough.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
over socialized.
You want, yeah, sounds terrible, but you want like in the police cars where they have like the glass thing that
Oh,
comes up. You can just
yes.
push that thing up and
That's
like
right.
get a little quiet time, right? Because
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. Yep. I
So,
agree 100%.
well, guys, check out our podcast and thank you for being on tonight. And we'll talk
No
to you
problem.
soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Gotta stop this now. How do we stop recording here?